Are you thinking about putting your home on the market? Today we're going to talk about home inspections. This is James Alderman with Alderman Home Inspections. James, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us how you got into the inspection business?
Yes, I'm James Alderman. I've been in the inspection business for about 8 years. I'm a local resident of Cumberland County, been here about 50 years. Not born here, but most of my life here. Got into the home inspection business because I like rebuilding and remodeling and things of that nature, so I kind of started my own business about 8 years ago.
It's a good time for that.
It was a real good time for that.
Okay.
We do, in general, we do a lot of home inspections in the county and surrounding counties. We check everything from the roof, the envelope of the home, the crawl space, basements, electrical, plumbing, HVAC systems, water heaters. Anywhere that I can crawl into, we're going to look.
So tell us a little bit about how you come up with your checklist of things to look for. So you're not really checking for code violations.
No, as home inspectors, we're not codes inspectors. So we can't do codes inspections on a home that was built in 1980 or 1960 or even 1990. This county didn't even have codes here until 2008.
Right.
So we have to look at the home in three phases: safety, structure, and systems. So and the biggest thing as home inspectors is safety. We never want anybody to ever get hurt in a house that we inspect. Mm-hmm. So when we start the home inspection, of course, when we pull in the driveway, I have a set of field notes that we put together that I do the same inspection on every house the same way. I have a real routine, and I try not to get away from that routine. So when we first pull into the house, we're looking for things around the property that might be unsafe, like a huge hole in the driveway or a huge hole in the yard, or even a house that's got a swimming pool. We don't inspect swimming pools, but at the same time we want it to be properly fenced and gated so that the neighbor kids don't decide to come and jump in. We're checking the roof to make sure the roof is in good shape, not missing shingles, not worn or bad. We check the envelope of the house, the siding and all, to make sure that there's no water leaks or potential water leaks. We also check decks, porches. Last year there was 6,000 people that got hurt on porches and decks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, some of them fatalities. The county here and other counties in this area and around in Tennessee, some counties make you put the proper hardware on decks and some don't. That's why we can't be codes inspectors on older homes.
Right, and so stop right there for just a minute and talk about, because that's one of the questions that I'm asked a lot is, will this home pass a home inspection?
Well, we never fail a home inspection. We always just recommend that, especially like joist hangers, we recommend if you put those on, it's going to save the integrity of your outer band board from pulling loose and causing maybe your deck to collapse. It's a very cheap fix, and at the same time, not every deck pulls away, but in the almost 4,000 home inspections that I've done, I have seen some that's pulled away far enough to collapse.
And so a seller wouldn't be required to fix it, but a buyer could request those repairs based on what you see in your inspection.
They could, and it could be something that they want to update themselves, If the buyers are not, or the sellers are not willing to fix those items, then maybe it's something they want to...
Then they know for their own...
Yeah, update. It's a very easy fix. A handyman can install them, or even homeowners can install them.
And the notion of pass or fail, I think, comes from other states and cities maybe that do have a codes department that inspects every resale maybe, and we don't do that in Cumberland County.
We don't do that here. Tennessee does not require that. Some other states in the north do, California and different places. So if you have a home inspection done and you got 10 items that are out of code, then they'll have to be repaired. Since we're not codes inspectors, and since this county and other counties, surrounding counties, don't even have codes,
right?
Then we do this. We do the safety, system structure, and the systems themselves.
And you recommend repairs, and the buyer then goes back to the seller to try to negotiate these repairs, but there's no pass or fail and no checklist that a seller has to go by.
No. And in my reports, you're going to see stuff in there that's everything I'm going to say, recommend. There are things in there that I might say, you might want to require this to be done.
Right, if it's a serious.
Yeah, when it comes to like if you got gas heat and you have no carbon monoxide alarms,
Right.
that's something that's pretty serious. And then also the electrical. You know, my mother's house burnt back last year because of an electrical fire. So, and I'm a big stickler when it comes to electrical. We've had people get hurt a lot in crawl spaces, crawling around in open junction boxes and different things. And that's what I do for a living is crawl around the crawl space.
And bare wires hanging down.
So any kind of electrical thing, and there's some things in the electrical boxes that are not allowed anymore that have just evolved. We report them and then just recommend that you maybe get them looked at by an electrician.
Yes.
You know, the bonding of the neutral wires on the bus bar are not allowed anymore in newer construction. But so it's not going to burn your house down, but it might be detrimental for the electrician working on the house, or while he's working on it, you might get shocked being in the kitchen making cookies. You know, it's stuff like that.
So I've made a list of things that I've seen a lot, and I know you've got probably way more on your list than I do, but what are some things that sellers might do to get ready for an inspection as far as some minor repairs that they could be looking for ahead of time that they could take care of so those don't show up on an inspection?
Well, you know, if when you're getting ready to put your house on the market, just get out and just take a hard look at the exterior of the house. The gutters, you know, make sure your gutters are cleaned out. So that way the water's not, you know, piling up in the foundation and getting in the crawl space. Crawl spaces with effervescence or standing water in them will scare a buyer worse than anything. It's hard to even tell anybody about it because it's right off the bat, it's the scariest thing ever.
And some people moving here are not used to crawl spaces and the moisture that comes along with those. So that is one we see.
And water in the crawl space causes other problems. It causes microbial, which we find, which is easily treated. But once again, if you come from a state that's got a slab,
you don't deal with that.
Now you're really scared.
Right.
So before you put your house on the market, it might be a good idea to get a crawl space inspection or something like that. And there's something we offer too at a reduced price is a pre-listing inspection.
Okay.
So we go in and I do the same inspection that I'm doing if I was for a buyer, but now I'm working for the seller. So here's your list, a home inspection list. So there might be 30 things on there, but you know, at least you've got a list to put on the bar. You can mark those, fix those 10 things that you think is important to get fixed. You disclose the rest of them and say, hey, these are general maintenance items that need to be done.
Right. And then when a buyer gets that home inspection, they're not seeing 30 things, maybe they only get 10 things.
And I even offer that free of charge for the buyer coming in.
Okay.
I will go back and check the items that they repaired.
Nice.
So that way, you know, and it's at a reduced cost, and I'm even making an extra trip to do that.
And that's very helpful to the buyer and the seller.
It is, yes.
So crawl spaces, gutters, those are pretty easy things to take care of.
Porches and decks, you know, make sure you don't got rotted wood.
Okay.
Make sure the railing's not about to fall off. You know, things like that. Steps are still in good shape, because if not, that's little things that you can address before you put the house on the market.
Now, we were talking a few minutes ago about the graspable handrails. That's one that comes up a lot.
It is a graspable handrail, and the reason that I write that up is because in most parts of the country, it is a safety feature for a handrail to be no more than 2 5/8 wide or 1 1/4 inch if round. So, if I do a lot of home inspections for the elderly here, Fairfield Glade.
Right.
And, you know, I think about those ladies, our gentlemen, you know, up and down those steps in the frosty weather and stuff like that. So I just like for them to have something to grab a hold of.
Because most of what we see are 1 by 6, is that what they are? They're
most of the time it's a 1 by 6. And the county says as long as you can reach around the back of that and hold on, it's okay. But if
you're
fall,
going down those stairs.
Yeah, if you fall, it puts your arm in a bind, and it will cause you to lose grip of that.
Right.
And you could fall and hurt yourself bad.
And what about the width of the railings? So
4
inches.
And that's across the country, and that's due to children. So that's a children's safety thing.
So their head can't get stuck or they can't slide between them.
Prior to 2008 here, and in counties that don't have that, the gaps, there was no rule for that gap. The county does here enforce that 4-inch gap now since 2008.
On new construction, but
On anything,
not
built
retroactively.
prior, no, anything
So-
built prior to 2008.
So that's one that's also an easy fix, and if they don't want to put up a bunch of new balusters, is that the correct word?
It
Then
is.
they
There's,
could
there's
put
different ways you can. A lot of people's using the hog wire, which is very attractive.
Right.
Retroed. It's very easy to put up, and it's in the proper squares.
Or lattice. I've seen
yes,
lattice.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty easy fix that solves a big safety
Yes.
issue.
Yep.
Another one that I see all the time on older homes are GFCI outlets. Do you want to talk about
GFCI
that?
outlets. Yeah, that's very important, especially today and time, because everybody's plugging something up electronic-wise. You're listening to your iPad. You've got your phone charged up. You're washing your hair. You're doing stuff in the sink. So you still get shocked with ground fault, but you don't even feel it. So it's very important, and it is really required by the electric code, even in this county now, in all bathrooms, laundry rooms now, kitchens, garages, and exterior.
So anywhere around water.
Anywhere wet, like in a garage where the car pulls in and you've got snow on it or rain, anywhere like that, yes.
The common one, I guess, that we see is laundry rooms, and that must have been added
Laundry
to
room
the...
has just started in 2019.
Okay, so a lot of the older homes, I know
Right.
that gets flagged a lot. They'll have
Right.
them in a kitchen or bath, but they don't have them in the laundry
And
room.
they consider that a wet area now because some of the newer tubs that's come out has the soaking tub at the top.
Okay,
So
okay.
people soak in and doing the stuff in the top with their hands.
Okay.
So now they have a metal energized machine that they're sticking their hands
That
in. And that's
makes
kind of
sense.
what brought that on.
That makes sense, okay. And that's a fairly inexpensive fix. I mean, you have,
Two outlets are $30, so about $15 a piece.
And
They're
then
they're
the
easy
labor.
to install. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Usually, if you got a little bit of electrical knowledge, you can YouTube it, and it'll tell you how to install them.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's something that could be
Yeah.
done. And
Or they can call me and I'll walk them through it.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. You talked a minute about decks. One thing that shows up a lot are joist hangers and lag bolts, and I guess that's not commonly used around here, but it's
It's not,
important.
right, it's not commonly used. They use in the county, and I look for this to change eventually, but they use just a board, and they have to put 3 nails under each joist. It still doesn't connect the joist to the band board. So really that's on there just to look pretty, because it's not doing any good at all. And that's the only part about it is when the band board when the nails get older and the wood dries out, and the movement from people walking across the deck, and it's a lot worse with a deck with the band boards with the joist running parallel to the house instead of this way, because your motion will push that band board away from there a little bit all the time, and eventually when that nail comes loose, the floor falls. So, and I have seen those.
Yeah.
I have been on them where I almost fell.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And again, it's not an expensive fix. There's a little
not.
bit of labor involved with that.
joist hangers are a couple bucks a piece. Lag bolts are very easy to put in now because you can use timber screws for your electric grill. You can buy a box of them and you zip them in. They're very easy to install.
Let me see what else I have here. Attic insulation, that one in a lot of older homes. What is the, well,
The insulation value now through the energy efficiency program is an R38 in the county. That some contractors put more than that in. Usually an R30 dates way back. So if it's got an R30 in it, I won't say too much about it because we're not a real cold weather climate. If it's a new construction, I will talk about it needs to have an R38.
Can you relate that into, is there an inches that we're looking
it's
for?
It's about 3.14 inches for like cellulose. Fiberglass is a little different. A lot of times you'll see a tape measure that's been installed in the
Yes.
attic, and that'll tell you the depth of that. So typically on cellulose where it compacts deeper, 8 or 9 inches is going to be about an R30.
Okay,
And on the fiberglass, if it's 10 or more, it's going to be up to 38 or so.
okay,
So I'll dig around. A lot of times when you go in the attic, if it's, and most of those are 2x6s. So if I can count all the 2x6s, I know it's only about 6 inches deep, probably about an R22.
okay, okay.
So, and what that does for the clients, and once again, it's just a recommendation. We're not terribly cold here.
Right.
But it will help you with your electric bill.
Right.
If you blow some in. And you can have it blown in pretty cheap.
And then sometimes you just see where if it's been an attic that people have been using for storage or they've traversed it for some reason or another, you just see it packed down. And so it may just be in places where it's
Right,
gotten
yeah.
packed into
Yeah, a lot of times they'll plywood over parts for storage. It's still there. It's just compressed a little bit. So
And what about in the crawl space? I know that's now being required by building code in
it
the
is.
county.
It's required now to either have under the floor, or to have styrofoam on the walls, or to be fully encapsulated. Fully encapsulated is getting a lot more popular. They'll put the foam on, they'll spray or plastic the walls, and then they'll condition the crawl space through the HVAC
Right.
or a dehumidifier. So a lot of people are starting to say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close my vents off, but they don't install a dehumidifier. It's very important. If you don't install that or hook that through the HVAC system and draw air from outside, you will grow microbial growth in a couple of years.
Okay.
And then you can start your mushroom factory down there. So,
Okay.
so
Then carbon monoxide and smoke detectors, you talked about that a little bit. That's
within
one.
10 feet of all sleeping areas.
Okay.
Some jurisdictions say there should be one in each room, but as long as you got one in the hallways leading to each sleeping area within 10 feet.
Okay.
Carbon monoxide is actually better if it's lower. The plug-in type that
Right.
plug in, that's battery operated. Carbon's a heavy gas.
So it settles.
Settles. So you definitely, but they also make some good smoke and carbon detectors. So
Okay.
yeah.
Then the railings. We talked about railings. I don't think we talked about the number of inches where you're required to have a porch railing or
Anything over 30 inches should have a railing, and that's a national residence code throughout the country. It's in this county, prior to 2008, so houses prior to that's not going to meet that. But anything prior built to that should have a railing on it.
And that's something that comes up also when we do FHA or USDA government-backed loans.
Yes.
That's one that they flag a lot.
Yep.
So,
And some people, like at lakes and different places, I've heard, and I've seen signs to where it's had a railing there when the house was built, but maybe they didn't like the railing on the porch, so they take them down.
and well, it obstructed the view maybe.
Right, yeah,
And but that one is one that's going to be flagged. And now where you're saying, or where we talked about, you can't cause the seller to have to do repairs. These loan programs will, so
yeah.
they can't get financing unless they do some of these
And I
things.
have seen it where they have them put a piece of lattice up until the appraiser comes out,
And then they take it
and
down.
they take it down and go on,
And we can't stop that,
Right,
but
yeah.
we can advise them.
All we can do is recommend things, and hopefully people will look at that in a sense of, somebody might get hurt. I was in a basement the other day, and I went down in the basement and it had a landing there, and it wasn't high enough. It needed a railing or a set of steps. I mean, it had steps, but it didn't need a railing at the landing because it wasn't high enough. So I went and inspected, and I turned the lights out, and I went back upstairs, and I thought I forgot to turn something on, so I went back down. I didn't turn the light out, and I stepped off that.
Oh,
And when I did, I crashed hard, face first, both knees, arms. So it can happen
right.
even at a lower thing.
Right.
So and that's where people just have to kind of think about it and think about themselves,
I did the same thing in my garage. I've got 2 steps down and I didn't have a handrail, and I did the same thing. Just
Yeah.
turned around for some reason and stepped right off.
And sometimes even if it's not high enough, that handrail or that little thing just reminds you that there's a step there. Because otherwise, if it's dark or if you're in a hurry, you got a bag of groceries in your hand, bad things can happen.
Yeah, the concrete is not soft.
No, it's not.
One thing that I see a lot, and this is such a cheap fix, and I don't understand sometimes why it's not there, but the pressure relief valve on the water heater has to have an extension that takes it, 6 inches above the ground?
It needs to be 6 inches, and what happens on those is the way that plunger's made is if it pops off, and the water heater has to have that, because if it gets ready to explode, that'll pop off. So when it pops up, it'll spray water this way, not down.
And you don't want it coming toward your face.
Right. So especially kids, because little kids will walk up to the water heaters, and it's a mechanical thing. They can pull it up and get squirted right in the face and get hurt bad. That's 200 degrees.
Yes.
So I recommend it be on there. I even recommend it in a crawl space, just because I'm crawling around down there, and the termite guy is, and he might get his sleeve caught in it as he goes by, or his jacket pocket, or who knows, and get sprayed by hot water.
And it's just a piece of PVC pipe,
That's all it
so
is.
it's just a few cents.
It's required to be 3/4 of an inch, the same size. A lot of people will nipple it down and then drop it to a 1/2 inch. It needs to be the same size that's coming out of there. But it's basically just a 30-cent fitting and a $3 piece of pipe.
Yeah.
And you don't have to use glue or anything else. You can just stuff it up in there and tighten it up, and you're good.
That's the fix. But
That's the fix.
But I see it a lot. I'm sure you see it a lot
Yeah,
on
I do,
on
yeah.
even new constructions. I've seen that some. Then the soil being too close to the siding or trim, that's one that comes up sometimes.
It is. Older homes, especially the siding and stuff, and because they use the wood siding, T911, stuff like that, I mean, it doesn't take much to rot, so it starts rotting from the bottom up. The newer construction, they're using a little bit of different stuff now. They're using the baked enamel, they're using the concrete backer board.
Right.
So it's not as important. But in older homes, if you don't keep the soil raked back, and you could rake it back and then maybe put some gravel in there or something like that to decorate it. But a lot of people will pile mulch up,
Yes.
which that's another topic and subject for termites.
Yes.
So, you don't want the mulch right up against the house, and you definitely don't want it covering the wood, because now you've got a pathway for termites.
Yes. And leaves get piled up, and they
Yep.
just need to be raked away.
Yep.
That's pretty much what I have on my list. Do you have anything else that you want to share that you see
I
a
think
lot?
that's it. I report the anti-tip bracket on the stove.
Oh yes, I think I did have that one in.
The Consumer Product Commission says we should report that. Whether anybody puts it on or not's another thing. If you've got a little kid, he can crawl up on the oven door and tip the stove back. So, it's pretty easy to tip.
And another cheap, easy fix.
It's a very cheap, easy fix. Most stoves come with them. So there's probably one, maybe even
In a drawer beside your.
Most of the time they're taped to the inside
Oh,
of the
okay,
stove in the
okay.
back. So
Yeah.
they're just there. So they're really easy to install. Something else, and I see it a lot in bathrooms, is missing caulk between the tub and the tile. It's a real simple fix. It'll keep it out of your report, but it also keeps the water from getting to the subfloor.
Yes, where the wood is.
Yes, and with houses now being required to be insulated, it's even more scary, because I can go in a crawl space, if there's no insulation, I can go right to those pipes and I can tell if anything's ever leaked. But now it's a lot harder.
Because it's covered up, you've gotta
pull insulation down and really look harder
Yeah.
to even find those problems.
Yeah, I was in a house yesterday in the basement, and there was a huge stain underneath the bathroom, so we assumed a toilet had
Probably
leaked.
a toilet, yeah.
But you're right, you couldn't see it if
Yeah.
it.
And rock your toilets, because that's a very expensive, can be real expensive for homeowners. Every now and then, just straddle your toilet and try to rock it. If it rocks, you need to seal, or you need to be tightened up, because water will seep down to the plywood and it'll grow. I have seen 8-foot areas all rotted out
Oh, wow.
in bathrooms. So that
Yeah,
means
just from
now that
slow leak.
the tub and the showers and all have to come out to be repaired. And I've seen it on houses only 5 or 6 years old, which is almost, it kind of brings you to tears, because the poor lady living in the house didn't have no idea
Right.
she's going to have to encounter this
Right.
now
Yeah.
to go along with everything else. So.
Yeah. Anything else that you have on your list?
No, I think we've covered it. My reports are in detail. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in them, a lot of general maintenance. I don't mean to scare people with my reports, but a lot of people say that they give them to their husbands, and he uses it for a couple years to just fix and repair stuff.
The ultimate honey-do list.
Right, it is actually. Our reports are full of pictures, full of color, and very easy to read.
Yes.
And if you ever lose it, 2 or 3 years from now after the home inspection, you call me and I'll republish it for you. It's very simple. We can get access to those reports for 10 years.
Okay.
So.
Well, thank you, James, for sharing with us. I think
Good to
that's
see you
good
again.
information.
Yeah.
Good to see you again.
Yeah.
And
If anybody needs us, they can call us at 931-261-4891, or Jennifer in the office.
yeah, we'd be remiss not to mention his lovely wife, Jennifer,
Yeah,
who
takes
really
care of
keeps
all
the operation running.
She does. She takes care of all the scheduling, and and keeps things rolling along in the office. And her number is 931-787-8259.
And we'll put both of those numbers in the comments, so if you need to get in touch with James, you'll have an easy way to do that.
And you can also go to Alderman Home Inspections YouTube. I'm starting to post videos of defects and things done right, roofs and different things that I find. I'm just putting little short clips in and to kind of maybe help people out if they see something. If you drive up in your driveway and you think you've got dimensional shingles, but you got some missing, it's probably time to call a roofer. So
that's right. All right. Well, good advice. Thank you for coming today, James.
You're welcome. Thank you.